You saw the title. Let's see what are the little secrets behind the screens of those Dungeon Masters. We recycle a lot of content. Look, preparing a full session's worth of combat plots and social interactions, week after week, can consume a lot of time. We love DMing, but most of us are quite busy, and some are even a bit lazy. So, we often save some time and effort by reusing monsters, NPCs, or even entire dungeons and story arcs. Players practically never notice. Do you remember the bandits from a few sessions ago? I was prepping a dungeon crawl, but you negotiated with them and rolled a natural 20. You managed to persuade them to leave their life of crime behind. Well, now their bandit hideout is going to become a cultist lair for one of our next adventures. You get to succeed in your improvised plan, and I get to use the map I spent a lot of time drawing and the encounters I spent a lot of time balancing. One of the easiest ways to recycle content is to reskin it. You take an existing piece of content and change its appearance, theme, or context to create something that feels fresh. If you are looking to do some reskinning, make sure to fit the old content into the theme and mood of the new situation you're going to use it in. Also, make sure to adjust the tactics and abilities of the monster to fit the current level of the party. I'm never afraid to recycle NPCs. A memorable shopkeeper from a previous campaign could become a helpful guide or an informant in the current game. By changing little details in how they look and their motivations, you can make them feel like new characters without spending additional time prepping. If you recycle an entire story arc or plotline, rearrange key events, characters, or locations to create a fresh narrative experience. By doing this, you maintain the core structure of the story while making it feel unique. Be mindful of what your players already know. If they're familiar with the content you're using, make sure you modify it enough that it doesn't feel repetitive or predictable. This is especially true if you're playing with the same group of players who experienced the content in a previous campaign. One of the great benefits to recycling content is that you can learn from your previous experiences. Make sure to identify what went well and what didn't work at all when you initially used that piece of content, and make adjustments accordingly. If you refine and improve the piece of content over and over again, that's what good authors do with their adventures. It's called playtesting. We use our players' ideas. Do you feel like you always manage to reveal the secrets in the story of your DM before you were meant to? Sometimes that's true, and sometimes you in fact generated them by sharing your crazy conspiracy theories with the Dungeon Master. A clever GM will pay close attention to the players' discussions and theories about the campaign. They will then add the most interesting ideas as part of a future plot. Incorporating players' ideas into our campaigns is a great way to save some time. It also makes the gaming experience more collaborative. As an added benefit, the players feel more connected to the story and the world. So, if you're running a game, make sure you foster an environment where players feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas. Encourage them to think about their characters' motivations and backstories. Let them scheme plots and suggest speculative theories about what is actually going on in the campaign. They might be better than you at coming up with original and crazy ideas anyway. We improvise a lot of our best content. No matter how much time a Dungeon Master spends in preparation, it will almost always fall to the wayside on occasion. Perhaps the players dealt with the prepared encounters much faster than expected. Perhaps they chose an entirely different path than the one we anticipated. Sooner or later, every Dungeon Master has to improvise. Sometimes this only means slight adjustments. Perhaps the bandits attack you on the river instead of on the road, but sometimes we have to pull out entire plots out of our butts, and often those are the ones most memorable and enjoyable for our players. This doesn't mean that prepping is useless. By spending the time to understand our players' preferences and the capabilities of the characters, we are priming our brains to come up with generally balanced combats on the fly. By spinning complicated story arcs, we're building the templates we can fall back on in our moment of need. For example, when the players decide to skip an entire town we spent the previous week preparing for them. We don't know how your character works. This might come as a shock, but unless your DM is extremely experienced and has personally played your class, they probably only have a surface level understanding of the mechanics. D&D and many other systems have an extreme amount of crunch. The same way you focus on playing your character the best way possible, the DMs focus on playing the monsters well, bringing the NPCs to life, and making the game world feel real. Even if I read through your subclass, I probably just try to decipher how much damage you can take before you die and what's your expected damage output in a typical combat. This is why sometimes bards and other funky characters not focused on damage can catch us off guard with their crowd control abilities. These secrets are hidden well by many great dungeon masters, but they also need to avoid some very unpleasant mistakes to keep players happy. To learn more, make sure you check out this video.